Alrighty, well, thank you everyone for taking the time to join us today. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to come and join us on this training. Again, we are the Ohio Department of Insurance's new Mental Health Insurance Assistance Office. My name is Kyle Miller. I am the Mental Health Outreach Coordinator at the department, and I'm going to be giving a quick 25 to 30-minute training today talking about mental health and substance use disorder insurance benefits. Specifically, we'll talk about how to understand what services are covered by your insurance plan, how to utilize those benefits, and then what to do if you feel that you're incorrectly denied coverage for a mental health or substance use disorder service. Like Kelsey mentioned, there's going to be time for questions at the end, so you can put those in the chat and we will answer those afterwards. And then also this is being recorded, so we'll have our email available on the second slide and at the end. And if you need if you would like a copy of the recording for any reason, feel free to shoot us an email. We should be able to get you that. So with that, I am going to begin our presentation. So the four sections for this presentation, the first thing I'm going to do is just give a very brief overview of the role of the Ohio Department of Insurance and the new Mental Health Insurance Assistance Office, or MIA, that was stood up within the department. And then, like I mentioned on my intro slide, we're going to talk about how to understand your benefits, how to access and utilize your insurance benefits, and then what to do if you are feel you're incorrectly denied coverage for a mental health or substance use disorder service. Specifically, we will talk about how to file an appeal with your insurance company or how to file a complaint with the Ohio Department of Insurance. So again, we are the Ohio Department of Insurance, and our mission is to provide consumer protection through education and fair but vigilant regulation while promoting a stable and competitive environment for insurers. So in terms of consumer education, that's kind of the things that we do right now, where we do these online presentations to educate Ohioans about the services that our department provides, and then how to do things related to insurance, like figure out what your mental health benefits are under your insurance plan. We also do things like regulate all types of insurance companies, whether that's auto, home, sales, etc., or auto, home, health, etc. We license insurance agents. We enforce laws related to insurance, and we help insurance companies ensure that they remain solvent and make sure they maintain enough liquidity that they can pay out claims when they're filed and that kind of thing. So within the Ohio Department of Insurance, we have created a new Mental Health Insurance Assistance Office, or MIA, and it was launched last summer and as a kind of a dry run, and then we were formally established in January under an executive order by Governor DeWine. So the purpose of the new Mental Health Insurance Assistance Office is twofold. The day-to-day mission is to help individual consumers and providers resolve insurance disputes relating to coverage for mental health services. And the longer-term goal is to help develop policy solutions from the information we gather. So people call in, they explain the issues that they're having with their insurance when it comes to mental health benefits and those kind of things. And then we take that information and either as a department or pass up the ideas to the governor or the state legislature on ways that we can make insurance better for everyone in the state of Ohio, specifically when it comes to mental health insurance benefits. We have our own hotline and email address. That's the number you see right there, the 855-438-6442. 855-GET-MIA is the easy way to remember it. And then we have our email, getmia@insurance.ohio.gov. Consumers can reach out through either of those means, and they will get our staff here, which is mostly me, and I'll respond and try to help them through whatever situation it is that they're navigating or whatever questions they have regarding their insurance. So this is a big mission when it comes to providing mental health mental health insurance guidance and helping people with those kinds of questions. So we have a lot of partners that we work with to make this happen. So we work with Recovery Ohio, which is Governor DeWine's initiative to expand mental health services and education statewide, and then the Ohio Department of Administrative Services. They both help us really promote this new hotline. We do a lot of events together at like the state fair and those kind of things. They help us get our educational materials to take to conferences and those kind of things. We work a lot with the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, or OMAS. OMAS does a lot of community engagement. And so they really help us connect with community partners. And then we have the Ohio Department of Medicaid. Insurance regulation when it comes to health plans has a lot of regulators. So we at the Ohio Department of Insurance regulate two types of plans. We regulate the employer-based plans, so employers that are buying insurance for their employees. We regulate those plans. We also regulate the Individual Affordable Care Act plans that people might purchase if they're self-employed or something like that. The Ohio Department of Medicaid is our partner because they regulate the Medicaid-based plans. So whenever somebody calls our office or our hotline and they have a concern about a benefit relating to a Medicaid-based plan, we reach out to them and they help us resolve that problem. And then the United States Department of Labor regulates the really big self-insured plans that some larger companies use instead of saying going and buying a third-party insurance plan. So we really work with the Department of Medicaid and the U.S. Department of Labor as kind of our partner regulators when it comes to the healthcare space. So the next three parts of this presentation, I'm going to talk about the three prongs of the first part of the Mental Health Insurance Assistance Office's mission, which is helping individual consumers and providers navigate questions about their insurance. Specifically, we try to help people get information, access, and support. We want people to be able to understand what their mental health and substance use disorder benefits are under their insurance plan. We want them to get access to those benefits and be able to use them to maximal advantage. And then finally, we want to make sure that they have support if they need help resolving a coverage concern or a claim dispute with the health plan, something like that. So first, we're going to talk about the information piece on how to understand your mental health and substance use disorder benefits. So the first question most people have when they're trying to understand their health insurance benefits, whether it's for physical or mental health benefits, it's asking what type of coverage does your health plan provide? And a helpful tip that we try to make people aware of is oftentimes just knowing the type of plan that you have can go a long way in answering that question. So I'm going to use the example. So I use the example of the two types of health insurance plans that we regulate. So if you have an individual ACA plan that you bought directly for yourself on healthcare.gov, those plans are required to provide some kind of mental health and substance use disorder benefits. The details might vary depending on the type of plan, but they're all going to offer some kind of benefit. And then if you have an employer-based plan, there are some that maybe don't offer mental health benefits at this point, but the overwhelming majority as of 2023 do. So odds are if you have either of those plans, you're going to have some type of coverage for mental health or substance use disorder services. And then the next question really comes into how do you figure out the details of that insurance coverage? And that's when we talk about the next part of understanding your benefits, which is checking to see the details of it. And there's really 5 ways to do this. So the first, and probably the easiest if you have it, is to check the certificate of coverage that's issued by your insurer or provided by your employer. They usually give you this information about your health plan when you initially sign up for coverage, say when you get a new job or when you purchase the plan or when you start a new enrollment year. If you can't find your certificate of coverage, there are ways to get that information still. So if you have a plan under your employer, you can reach out to your human resources office and ask if they can send you another copy of that certificate of coverage, for example. You can also reach out directly to the health insurer company. So you can either and that is regardless of whether you have an employer-based plan or if you have an ACA plan. If you have an ACA plan, another option would be, especially if you used an insurance agent to find the right plan for you and your family, you can reach out to that insurance agent. They should be able to help you navigate those questions as well. And then finally, you can reach out to us at the Ohio Department of Insurance. You can call our 855-GET-MIA line and our mental health insurance assistance office, along with our consumer services division. We can reach out to the healthcare company. We can get the details of your plan and help you figure that piece out. So now that we've talked about that first piece, the information piece and how to understand how to get the details and understand what your benefits are, the next step is access. How do you access your mental health and substance use disorder benefits that are available under your plan? So there's really two parts to accessing your benefits once you know what they are. And there's a before sorry, there's a before treatment phase and there's an after treatment phase. So in the before treatment phase, what you would want to do is review your plan and make a list of any questions that you might have. Specifically, anything regarding things like copays, coinsurance, deductibles, etc. And make a list of questions, the things you don't understand, and then take the time to ask your insurance plan and clarify those. Another good thing to do prior to seeking services is to contact your insurer and verify the provider you would like to see is somebody that's is in the insurance network. And if they're not in your insurance network and you still want to see that particular provider, that's fine. But then you want to make sure you know the difference between the in-network and out-of-network rates and what that could potentially mean in terms of the direct costs that you need to pay. We also, on our website, under the that's insurance.ohio.gov, under our mental health tab, we have a lot of resources to kind of help people through these steps. And one of those that I think is really helpful is we have a list of common questions to ask your insurance provider. And so it really is, I think, just a good checklist. If you're planning to seek services, you can go on, you can check out that PDF on our page, and you can just kind of read through the questions that are good to ask. So those are good things to do prior to accessing your benefits. The next thing we'll talk about is after treatment. So after you see treatment, the next thing that'll happen, or after you get treatment, the next thing that'll happen is your health plan will send an explanation of benefits, or EOB, for you to review. We always try to clarify for people that the EOB is not itself a bill. What the EOB does is it clarifies a lot of the details of the treatment you received. So it tells you the full cost of the care, any money you saved by visiting an in-network provider, if you did see one that was in-network, any out-of-pocket medical expenses that you'll be responsible for, and then you'll receive the actual bill later on. So again, we always try to make sure that people know you'll get an EOB usually before you get the bill, and it's usually very helpful to hold on to that explanation of benefits. And the reason it is helpful to do that is that way you can double check when you do get that bill from the provider you saw, you can make sure that it was billed correctly, your insurance covered everything you were expecting it to, and those kind of things. So now that we've talked about how to understand your benefits and then how to access those benefits, now we'll talk about the support part that we provide at the Ohio Department of Insurance. Specifically, if you have a concern about a denied mental health or substance use disorder claim. There's a lot of reasons that people might be denied a claim for coverage of a mental health or substance use disorder service. Some of the really common claim concerns that we have seen are things like a prior authorization being denied. So you need approval or prior authorization to go see a particular provider before your insurance will cover it, and your insurance denies that authorization, which means they won't cover the visit to the provider. Maybe you have another common scenario is a prior authorization gets approved and then it's denied after you've already seen the provider, and you're stuck in this situation where you're expecting to not have any of it covered. Another perhaps less obvious one, but one that we frequently are finding consumers running into, are network adequacy issues. And what we mean by that is maybe you do get your prior authorization approved if you need one, but all the in-network providers in your area under your plan, either one, aren't accepting new patients, or two, they have wait lists that are weeks or in some cases months long. So that could be a sign of a network adequacy issue that we would definitely want brought to our attention so we can start working with the health plan to resolve that for you and other consumers that use that plan in that area. Other common claim concerns could be if you're seeking inpatient services, they might reduce the number of days that the insurance will cover, or the insurance plan might reduce the number of covered outpatient visits for particular services. So there's two ways that you can address these concerns. Any of them, whether it's prior authorizations being denied, a network adequacy issue, a denial of coverage after you've already seen the provider. So the first is that you can file an appeal within your insurance company. And then the second is that you can file a complaint with the Ohio Department of Insurance. And so we're going to talk about each of those individually, what the processes are. They look a little different, but you can go through each one, or you can go through both simultaneously. What we usually tell consumers is we always recommend that you start with the appeal process with your health insurance company. And the reason that we recommend that is there can often be shorter timeline requirements to file an appeal with your plan than there might be to file a complaint with the Department of Insurance. So, you might have the option to do both if you file the appeal first, see that through, exhaust that process, and then if it still doesn't result in the favorable ruling for the treatment you're seeking to get covered, you still have the option in most cases to file a complaint with the Department of Insurance after that. And that would be a good way to use both. But if you were to only focus on a complaint, depending on the plan and the service and those kind of things, you might run into a situation where you file the complaint, but you miss the opportunity to also file an appeal. So again, there's no requirement you do it that way. You can always go to a complaint first with our department if that is what you prefer, but we always recommend the appeal then complaint process. So let's go through the process of how to appeal a claim decision by your insurance plan. So the first thing we always like to emphasize to people that are wondering about the appeals process is you have a right to an appeal. If you feel like your health insurance company has incorrectly either denied you coverage for a service, or they've done a reduction in benefits, what is also called an adverse benefit determination, you have the right to an appeal. And an adverse benefit determination can be anything where a plan denies you a benefit for a multitude of reasons, including saying the services are excluded, they're not covered, they're limited under the plan, or the covered person is not eligible to receive the benefit. And a helpful tip that we ask people to keep in mind, even if you think you're going to get through the treatment process and not need to use the appeals process, which is hopefully the case, if you do, it is always helpful to just keep all documentation from you, your plan, and your provider throughout the treatment process, because it makes it a lot easier if you end up having to go through the appeals process because you already have all the documentation on file. So how do you file a plan with your health insurance company? So what you do is you can file an appeal by having yourself or an authorized representative on your behalf contacting your health plan to begin the appeals process. Just ask the company what their plan is and tell them you would like to appeal a decision. And then what will happen is you will need to submit any documentation you have, the reasoning for your appeal. Again, that's where keeping all the supporting information from your perspective is very helpful. And then the plan will review your appeal and make a determination as to whether or not they want to uphold their original decision or reverse and cover the service or part of the service. And we tell people that this process usually takes 30 to 45 days, depending on the situation, is usually the timeline for an appeal. However, if the initial internal appeal with the health insurance company, say, doesn't go your way and they still deny coverage of the service, you also have the opportunity to go through an external appeals process. And there's two processes for external appeals, depending on the dispute. So you can have what's called a contractual external review. So that would be something where there's a dispute about coverage depending on the actual contract language of your health insurance plan. And in that case, the appeal would come to us for an external review by the Department of Insurance. Our insurance analysts at the Consumer Services Division, we will look at your contract with your health plan and the information regarding the appeal, and we can make a determination as to whether or not the plan was correct on a contractual basis for denying coverage of that service or not. The other thing you can have is what's called a medical review, and this is if the question trying to be resolved in the appeal is related to whether the service you're seeking coverage for is medically necessary. That starts to come to us at the Ohio Department of Insurance. However, we don't have clinicians on our own staff, so we hand that case off to an independent third party. So it's not the health insurance company or our agency, but then they have clinicians on their staff and they review the documentation and make a determination as to whether or not that mental health or substance use disorder service is a medically necessary covered service, and they'll make a final binding and make a final and binding decision on that. Like I said on the previous slide, the appeals process usually takes 30 to 45 days. But when it comes to a medical external review, there is a special process for requesting an expedited review in unique situations where you feel that the health or life of yourself or the person you are advocating for that's seeking the mental health or substance use disorder service, if you feel their health or life is in serious jeopardy if they don't get immediate treatment, or if you feel they may not be able to regain maximum function if treatment is delayed. If they encounter if one of those two situations apply, you can request the expedited review process in order to get that timeline shortened a little bit, so you get a decision faster and that person that might really need treatment can get in and know it's going to get covered. So that's the appeals process in an overview. Then finally, what we're going to talk about is filing a consumer complaint. So when you file a consumer complaint, you're coming directly to us at the Department of Insurance and asking us to look into a decision that an insurance company made regarding your mental health or substance use disorder coverage. So if you want to file a complaint directly with the Ohio Department of Insurance, this is the list of the information that we'll need. We'll need the name of your health plan. We'll need that information that comes on your insurance card. So think your policy number, your group number, a group name if there is one. We'll need a description of what happened. So this is where there's any correspondence that you have, any documentation you have from your health plan and provider is really helpful because it helps us put together all the pieces of that story faster. And then if you are complaining for a dependent that's under your family plan, we need two people's information. We need both the person that's seeking the treatment as the dependent, and we also need the person who is named on the policy. So usually that's the person at the job that, you know, it is actually signed up for the healthcare coverage. So then what happens after you file a complaint with the Ohio Department of Insurance? Well, so then our Consumer Services Division will reach out to the health plan and get an explanation of their position. And what we do is they'll send us a response back on why they denied or limited coverage for a certain service. And then if there's follow-up questions, we usually have we might have a couple rounds of correspondence, or they might adequately answer all our questions up front. But once we have that, we send a letter to you that explains, that basically is a full summary of, you know, why you reached out to us, what the steps we took to clarify the situation with the Department of Insurance, and then what our determination is as to whether the plan was correct or not and why. This process usually takes around 30 days. However, it can take longer in unique situations. So, and the reason for this is by law, when a complaint is filed with us and we reach out to a health plan, that health plan has 21 days to respond to us. And so, especially if you're dealing with a complex case where maybe the plan replies, but then they have follow-up questions, it can take a little longer, but 30 days is what we tend to stick to. So I know that presentation covered a ton of information very, very quickly. And there will be time for questions, but hopefully this map here helps you kind of think through the steps of this process. So the first step right at the top is always getting the information and understanding your benefits. And then once you understand your benefits, then you can access those benefits. You can get that prior authorization approved if you need it. Then you go see the provider after confirming they're in network or being okay with the fact they're out of network. And then afterwards, you receive the explanation of benefits, that EOB, and then later you get the bill. If there are no issues with the disputes or claim, then the process is complete and you can repeat as needed for any other treatment that you might need to seek. If there is a problem with a complaint, that's where you have the two options. You can file an appeal, or you can file a consumer complaint. If you file an appeal, the insurance company might review it and reverse the determination, in which case now you have coverage for that service that you were seeking coverage for. If the insurance company upholds the decision, you can then request an external review, either contractual or medical, depending on the situation, and get a final resolution that way. Or you can file, or in addition to an appeal, you can file a consumer complaint, in which case we at the Department of Insurance will contact the insurance company, and then we will work with them to get a resolution and clarify what the outcome should be. So that concludes my presentation on the Ohio Department of Insurance and our new mental health insurance assistance office and how we're trying to help make sure consumers have information, access, and support when it comes to utilizing their mental health and substance use disorder benefits. So I have put our hotline number up there again, as well as our email. And again, if you want the slides from today or the recording, let me know. You can send me an email, getmia@insurance.ohio.gov. You can follow us on social media. We use the hashtag GetMia to promote our new hotline and make people aware that we exist. When you're a very new resource like us, a lot of people don't know they can call if they have questions or concerns, or they don't know they can email. So we try to make sure that we're constantly pushing on social media that we exist. And then finally, you can also send us an email if you are interested in signing up for our quarterly newsletter. We send out a newsletter once a quarter to do things like advertise these trainings so that people know the dates and the times, and they can register and those kind of things. So that concludes my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing the PowerPoint, but then I am happy to take any questions that there are in the chat. So Jody's question is, do you help people with understanding Medicaid benefits too? So we can definitely help you start the process of figuring that out. So if you have a Medicaid health insurance plan, the actual plan is regulated by the Ohio Department of Medicaid that we have a lot of connections with. So what you can do is you can give us a call or shoot us an email and kind of walk us through what the issue is that you're or thing you need clarification with regarding your health insurance plan. And then it might be something that we can kind of figure out over the phone, especially if you have your certificate of coverage. And if you don't, then we can reach out to the Department of Medicaid on your behalf and try to get you an answer, or if necessary, connect you with somebody at that department if that's needed. Whatever is easiest to help you resolve the problem. So that's a long-winded way of saying yes. So Brian asks, it may take more than one session to reach a diagnosis. How long after services begin can a patient file? I don't know if I would know if there's like a hardline rule on if you've been seeing a provider trying to get diagnosed with or trying to get a diagnosis for some symptoms or something like that. I don't know if there's a time limit on filing an appeal or complaint if you're actively doing it. What I would do is if you're in that situation and maybe there's a dispute with your health plan on covering the sessions for that diagnosis, send us an email or give us a call and we'll see if we can figure out what options you have. You may have both available if you're actively doing it. I just, without more information, I wouldn't know off the top of my head. So Kate writes, if consumers run into a network adequacy problem where their rights, while the Ohio Department of Insurance and the insurance company work out the underlying problem, can they go out of network and not be subject to financial penalties, other options? I'm not 100% sure if they would apply in all instances. I think that might be something that you could potentially work out. I would say if you're in that situation, you call our hotline and we'll get in touch with the insurance company and let's see what the options are. That might be a potential solution because sometimes getting more providers in a network area can take a while. So I don't want to say that's not impossible. I think it would be very situational dependent. So if you're in that situation, give us a call and we'll see what we can do. I'm not seeing any other indications anyone else is chatting. I'll give it one more minute just in case anybody wants to throw out any last minute questions. So Janelle asks, what hours can someone call the phone number at the office? So our office hours are 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. However, you can call at any time and you can email at any time. And if no one picks up, just leave a voicemail, and then I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But we are usually pretty quick on responses. So if you call during those hours, I think we could get back to you within 24 hours most of the time. So I'm not seeing any other indications that anyone else is typing. I again just want to emphasize I appreciate everyone coming out for our first quarterly training of 2023. Thank you so much for taking the time, for having questions afterwards. Again, if you would like a copy of the recording from today, please let us know. You can send us an email, that getmia@insurance.ohio.gov email. And then also, especially for those that had very specific questions, if that's a case that applies to you or a family member, give us a call, shoot us an email, and we'll see what we can do to assist in terms of resolving those problems. So thank you so much and have a good rest of your day.